Veterinarians are trained to spot patterns, assess risk, and make high-stakes decisions every day. But many have never considered that those same skills could make them powerful investors in the future of animal health. Welcome back to the Veterinary Business Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Amanda Landis-Hanna. To help us explore investment veterinarians may not have considered yet, we are joined by Dr. Natalie Marks. Dr. Marks is a practicing veterinarian and the CEO of VANE, an angel investment network focused on giving veterinarians a meaningful seat at the table in animal health innovation. She brings a unique perspective because she understands both sides of the equation, the clinical realities inside the exam room and the business opportunities shaping the future of veterinary medicine. Today, we are discussing how veterinarians can think differently about wealth, influence, innovation, and the role they can play beyond traditional practice. We'll talk about what makes a strong animal health startup, why clinical insight matters in investing, and how veterinarians can begin exploring opportunities beyond the exam room. This episode is sponsored by Equa Marketing, platinum sponsor of the Veterinary Business Institute, helping veterinary practices strengthen their visibility, attract the right clients, and build for long-term growth. Now, let's get to the conversation. Dr. Marks, welcome to the Veterinary Business Podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm really excited for this conversation. You and I initially met actually through the startup that I work on, and you are a very generous investor in Voice Technologies. So from a personal level, thank you so much for your investment. And I'm glad that we're able to talk about different startups and different investment opportunities that veterinarians may not have considered.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the twists and turns that my career has sort of shown me, which a lot of veterinarians, I think, somewhat feel a little bit stuck maybe sometimes in that if I don't practice clinically full time, what am I going to do? Right? Am I going to work for industry? Am I going to go into shelter medicine? Am I going to maybe go back to school? Or maybe I'm going to become a chef or something completely outside of our profession. Sure. But one of the beautiful things, there's so many, but one of the most beautiful things about a veterinary degree is it allows you to really create a completely new trajectory for your life, for your career and your passion. And being a previous practice owner for a very long time in Chicago, I realized I love clinical medicine, don't get me wrong. And I really love business and startups. So two things can be true. And I was lucky enough to be introduced to VANE very early in its sort of conception and have had the privilege of leading this group now for over a year. And it's been an absolutely wonderful ride with so much blue ocean ahead of us.
Awesome. What made you realize that veterinarians at large specifically needed a seat at the investing table?
So every group that I talk to now, whether it's a venture capitalist group, a family office, a strategic, a private equity group, or even a single investor, standalone investor, we get the exact same feedback, which is your group is so needed and necessary for animal health innovation. And this is why. We, as an industry, and just talking healthcare, we typically fall about 10 years behind human health. And much of what's come over to our side has been reactionary to what works in human health. In other words, if somebody has a drug in human health, they'll go, well, maybe it'll work with animals, and they bring it over. We're rarely a first thought. The other piece is that, especially since COVID, animal health business models, and I'm talking companion predominantly here, have been pretty broken. Our business model of how healthcare works. Obviously, everybody listening to this podcast, I'm sure, has been following petflation, the rising cost of care, the challenges with accessibility. So between staffing shortages, broken hospital models, rising costs of care, accessibility of care, spectrum of, there's so much for us to consider. And there's no better time than now for veterinarians to realize that we can help shape what innovation comes forward. We can help shape innovation plans early on. We can help guide a lot of these really creative founders who have dreamt up amazing innovation, but for whatever reason may get stumped because they're in the wrong species, or they don't know how hospital workflows work, or this is very cool, but it's going to cost $120,000, right? So all kinds of challenges that lay ahead in the groundwork of how these startups are built can change the trajectory completely on whether the innovation comes forward or it gets stalled or it dies in the valley of death, as we call it in the investment life cycle. But we play such a critical role in helping advise and guide, and what we call at VANE, our direction, connection, and funding, sort of our pillars of why we exist. And we'll talk more about the funding piece, because I think that's one thing a lot of people are like, well, funding, I'm out for whatever reason. But I really hope to dispel that myth, because there's so much that can be done to help shape the foundation of animal health innovation that goes well beyond even a capital investment.
I think that's a really interesting point. When I first became familiar with VANE, I was thinking, okay, this has got to be huge numbers, and this has got to be a lot of work that goes into it. And I'm sure a lot of veterinarians feel like they don't have the financial background to be angel investors. What do you say to that? What does it actually take to get started with VANE?
Yeah. So I want to hopefully lower this bar of kind of hesitation as quickly as I can. So we have put a tremendous amount of effort into making that first experience into VANE extremely positive and supported. So this group was started by 4 of my dearest friends who are veterinarians that exited their businesses around the same time and said, like me, what are we going to do now? And they liked investing, and they liked kind of, looking at innovation, and said, let's just kind of get together casually and see what, over a virtual drink, and see what we can do. And we have developed this into, it's always a work in progress, but a fairly well-oiled machine, in that 50% of our members, and we're over 90 members now, have not made a single investment. Okay, so they have not put a penny into funding companies. Now, why is that? One, we want veterinarians, and that's myth number one. You do not have to be a veterinarian to be in VANE. So about 70% of our members are veterinarians, ranging across all types of species, specialties, generalists, whatever that looks like, shelter medicine, zoo medicine, exotics. However, the remaining members are from animal health. So whether they were executives or global BD or distribution, commercial, R&D, regulatory, finance, real estate, whatever it looks like, we have a wide breadth. So if you are involved in animal health in some way, you don't have to be a veterinarian. So that's number one. Number two, we want every member of VANE to feel comfortable investing when it's comfortable for them. So we provide a tremendous amount of education. We provide a lot of diligence support, which I can certainly dig into as well. But most importantly, the funding piece, remember, is just one of our pillars. Direction and connection are the other two. And we've had tremendous success over the last 6 months with what we call our Find an Advisor tool. So these are members, they may also capitally invest, but these are members that have areas of expertise a founder needs. So if you're a practice owner, or you're into a niche specialty or a niche species, or you did regulatory work, or you did BD, or whatever it looks like, you can list that. And founders from all over the world come to our website to find those advisors, which often is in exchange for equity that vests over time. So that doesn't mean you can't add to your portfolio. A lot of people say, I'm going to put money to add to my portfolio. many of our other members say, you know what, I'm going to put my investment in time and expertise. And in return, you'll achieve some equity. So lots of ways to impact companies and become involved in companies. The biggest thing about VANE is we consider ourselves extremely what we call smart capital. So when companies come to us, the nice thing too for us as investors is we don't lead around, meaning we're not the largest investment around. We often are closing around, which means we're putting in the smallest amount, typically just to kind of close the funding. And the reason they're coming to us is not because we have endless capital pools. It's because our advice and our connections and our ability to help shape where the go-to-market strategy is, or where the launch is, or the clinical trial, whatever that looks like, cannot be found elsewhere. Especially when you think collectively within our group. I tell this, and I haven't been challenged on this yet, but maybe someone can. I tell most people that I would find it hard to identify another group in vet med that is as well-rounded and deep in expertise and network connections within animal health collectively as our group, because we're not just B2B, meaning we're not just within veterinarians and in our internal industry. We have a lot of expertise in D2C and CPG, meaning going out to pet retail. So in marketing and packaged goods, as well as go-to-market strategy and lots of other ways expanding of how does it go to retail or e-commerce. Or so we collectively, I like to say, sort of own that smart capital designation really well. And I'm humbled every day when we have different discussions or diligence meetings or our monthly pitch night or whatever that looks like, where a lot of us get together virtually or at our annual conference, and we have these incredibly, I find them immensely stimulating discussions on what innovation is needed and what's maybe just, a Band-Aid on a problem. It's not really a problem, or maybe it's just a problem for the founder to solve, but really not for the animal health industry. So much to discuss. So if you are a Shark Tank fan, that's pretty close to what happens with us, without Mr. Wonderful, of course. But it's truly, it really puts a beautiful light on lifelong learning, for one, because I was the last person to know anything about poultry farm robots, but let me tell you, that's a very cool company. So thinking about learning all the very cool things that are happening and allowing us to really learn collectively and then help shape founder strategy, it's incredibly rewarding.
That's amazing. The organization, you have evaluated over 475 companies and made more than 37 investments. What separates animal health startups that succeed from the ones that don't? And how does a veterinarian's clinical eye give them an edge in spotting that difference?
Yeah, and I'm happy to report we're now at 508 since we last talked. So we've had a massive month, which has been super exciting. We just added our 38th portfolio company. We're in diligence with 39 right now. So very exciting last few months we've had.
Congratulations. That's very exciting.
Thank you. Since London's Casacco event, we had just this influx of really global interest, which is super cool. So we have companies from almost every continent that have applied, and it's very interesting to see. So yes, we diligence a lot, and we have what's called our investment process committee, which is almost 10 of us now. I think we're at 9, maybe 10 members who do several rounds of diligence on our companies. So we have kind of a 3-step process. We screen all the companies that come in every month. This is, again, I'm summarizing for time's sake, but we do have a diligence rubric that's very objective from Angel Capital Association, which is the umbrella for angel groups. The top 2 scoring companies based on that objective scoring, which goes over everything. And this is very pertinent to your question about how do we know which companies are going to move forward, is we look at leadership. We look at advisors. We look at IP, intellectual property. We look at their go-to-market. We look, is it a problem to solve for the industry, or is it a personal problem? Is it mission-driven? We look at funding, previous funding, or is this the first round? We look at founder history. Are they a solo founder? Do they have previous exits? Have they identified their gaps and built an advisory board around them? We look at exit strategy. We look at, is their go-to-market this extremely straight hockey stick that seems a bit maybe unreachable? Right. Or is it realistic? And what does that look like? So we look at a lot of different things. And then the top 2 scoring companies pitch live to us the next month. And then we have a deeper dive, a 10-minute pitch, 20-minute Q&A. And then if we want, we go further even into deeper diligence. Before that pitch night, we compose, it's usually an 8 to 12-page, very deep diligence document on those 2 companies for every member prior to the pitch. Right. So for those people listening who are like, oh, I'd love to do this, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to diligence these companies. I don't even know what diligence means. You don't have to worry, because we do this for you. And it's very helpful. We didn't have this in the beginning of VANE. It's been a beautiful work in progress, a little bit of a labor of love, and huge shout out to Lauren Holtvoid, who leads our IPC. But we have, a range of all different backgrounds who are part of this committee. So we have active discussions every Thursday on what these companies look like. And if someone's done the diligence and another person comes in and says, you know what, from my lens, I'm not sure I see this. Or did you think about this? It often changes how we move forward with these companies. What we're looking for, if I had a dream company out there, what we look for is this. We know solo founders are less successful. We know that from data. Objectively. That doesn't mean every solo founder has a hard time, but Angel Capital Association data shows that they are not as successful. So in a perfect world, we'd have a founding team that's complementary to each other, hopefully with a previous exit, at least with a previous successful build. We want a leadership team that supports, again, the vulnerabilities of the founders. So if they're both R&D, we like to see commercialization experts, CTO if they're tech, right? We like to see advisors that are in the space. So if you're building something for llamas, we don't want you adding a cat vet who happens to be your next door neighbor that you play poker with, right? So we want to see active, very niche specialists that are just not a name on a paper, but actually help contribute. We like to see IP if you're in an area that has protection. Not all areas of businesses have that capability. We like to see that you've actually thought about why this is a problem and you've spent time in the animal health space to know that it is. A lot of our companies that apply are either from human, like I said, or like, oh, that med's easier, cheaper, whatever they throw out there, we're going to try it. They've never spent time in a clinic. They've never looked at the cost of care. That's harder to guide them because they haven't shown that they've actually researched that this company can. Right. We like to see the go-to-market that has, again, an achievable strategy. We like to see that there's been some type of previous funding, whether it's a friends and family, whether it's a crowdsource or some kind of Kickstarter. It doesn't, at this point, we just like to see that there's been some success and responsible and intentional use of those funds. We like to see that this company is thinking bigger, right? But we also like to see that they're focused on one item to launch. So a company that comes to us with 16 different SKUs of a product at the beginning, there's a reason that there's a sort of investment trajectory. We start with theory. These are all considered what we call milestones. I'm sure you know this, but just for the audience, there's the milestone of theory, right? What is the innovation? Then there's the POC or the proof of concept. We like to see that there's been some type of event that shows that this is not just theory, that this is something that can work. And then we have our MVP, our minimum viable product. So that theory is proven, and then we have something that we can push out into the world, whether it's tech or SaaS or a product or a process, whatever it is. We have that, then we have our soft launch, and then we get out there. So all of those milestones, of course, require funding, require advisory. And we like to see that the founder has thought about all of those, not just theory, but really kind of says, hey, I don't know where the funding's going to come from, but I know this is how we're going to get here. I know this is what I want to do for POC, for MVP. I know I'm going to need these resources brought in, and so on and so forth. So our role as VANE is typically to come in at what we call pre-seed or seed. So it's usually right beyond to friends and family. And so we're very early investors, which means we're the riskiest, but we do still need to de-risk a bit. And that's what I'm talking about with some of those, again, ideal sort of company situations. Those patterns tend to lend themselves to more success. Not to say that if you're a single founder that's never had an exit, that's not to say you're not going to be successful. But typically getting involved with VANE, even if you're not coming for funding, even if you're looking for advisors or connection, our goal is to be the springboard for all of these innovators to have as good of a start as possible. That sometimes means that we give feedback that is direct and may not be what a founder wants to hear. In other words, we're not going to pursue pitch night with you, or we are not ready now, but in 6 months we might be. And in fact, 4 of our portfolio companies, we did not fund the first time. We gave feedback, they listened, did those adjustments and made significant progress, came back, and we funded it 6 months later. So a no is not always a no. And in fact, we love founders who maybe if they don't agree with our assessment, again, totally respect that, but at least have the humility to welcome it, right? Feedback is always a gift. It isn't always the feedback you want to hear, but there's a reason that we're saying it from, again, the Veterinary Angel Network's position. So whether you forgot to give something in your pitch, so we didn't get those resources to judge you on it or evaluate it, or maybe it's not a current pitch that you gave us, and all of a sudden you have a new strategic alliance that changes everything, or this founder or founding partner just suddenly completed a new round for you. It's really helpful for us to have all the information to assess. And remember, we're coming from an animal health lens of improving efficiency, innovation, and propelling animal health forward, either for the patient or for the veterinary team.
That's amazing. One thing I really like about that answer is that it expands how we think about investing, because for veterinarians, the investment you haven't considered isn't always the startup or a fund. Sometimes it's the practice you've already built. Yes. A lot of veterinary practice owners have created something incredibly valuable, but they may not always have a clear view of how visible that value is to the pet owners in their community. Are new clients finding them online? Are they shopping and showing up where they should be? Are competitors getting attention simply because they're easier to find? That's why Veterinary Business Institute, in partnership with Equal Marketing, our platinum sponsor, offers a complimentary marketing strategy meeting for veterinary practices. It's a $900 valued session where practice owners can take a step back, look at their online presence, local visibility, and growth opportunities, and get a clearer sense of where they may be leaving opportunity on the table. I think it connects so well to today's conversation, because whether you're investing in a company, advising a founder, or strengthening your own hospital, the real starting point is the same: seeing that opportunity clearly enough to act on it. For anyone interested, you can book the session at www.veterinarybusinessinstitute.com/SMN. And that brings me to something I wanted to ask you about VANE's structure. VANE invests individually, not as a pooled fund. So why does that structure matter? And how do you create this culture where 90 plus people with strong opinions, potentially more after this conversation, right? Is how many more people want to participate or want to invest? All of those people with strong opinions, of course, veterinarians always have strong opinions, can actually collaborate in a productive way.
Yeah, it's great you asked that, because right now, yes, we all invest individually. That allows members, one, to make their own decision on the companies. And we have not just the pitch night companies, but we have companies in our funnel that come in every day. So maybe there's something that is really important to you that may not necessarily attract sort of the common consensus. So people are, going into those at any point. At some point, and as we grow, there is significant interest in our membership of having a fund. And that is an ultimate goal. I want to make very clear. We've made that clear to our membership, and certainly want to make that clear to the world. That is an ultimate goal, is to have that option to be part of a fund. And what that fund allows, especially for newer angels, is if you don't have the extra time or want to put in the time to read the diligence, to sort of do your own investing, this allows a member or prospective member to put in a lump sum and have 4 to 6 companies managed for you.
Right.
So it's very similar to mutual funds kind of that you think about. We will always have the opportunity for members to invest individually. That will continue to be true for our group. I say this with the most pride possible, is that while we are all in animal health and while we were all some type of investor that unifies us, the one thing that strongly unifies all the VANE members is that we are kind, altruistic, respectful humans. And the people that come together, yes, we absolutely have really intense discussions. They're never heated. They're never uncomfortable. They're always in the, no pun intended, in the vein though, of respect and collaboration. And that is extremely important to our culture. VANE is, for most of us, most of the members that come, is a way that you're spending time outside of work and family and friends, right? So if we are choosing to do that, we want the culture and the environment to be supportive, collaborative, and kind. And that is extremely important to us. I know that seems to be kind of overstated, but I say that because it's fundamental to our group. So if you are thinking about coming and you say, I know nothing about investing, like angel investing, to me, that phrase is just foreign. I don't know the lingo. I don't know the equity vehicles. I don't know any of this. You are welcomed with open arms, and you take as much time as you need. And we have, starting in actually 2 weeks, we have a new director of membership whose sole role is the recruit and nurturing and retention of members, especially starting with onboarding.
Okay.
We provide tremendous education throughout the year in all different formats, whether it be live lectures, whether it's digital documents. We have lots of great collaborative arrangements with the investor conferences. So we have complimentary registrations for new attendees, and we provide panels, and we have educational newsletters, and we have what we call our opportunities, which is our Diligence newsletter. So we provide as much as a member wants to read and dig in, but we know everybody's pace is different. So there is no obligation to invest in VANE. People look at me and go, are you crazy? No, there is no obligation. You could be in VANE for 20 years. Hopefully we have this beyond, and never put a penny of your own money into VANE. There is no requirement for that. We find it just as valuable to be giving your advisory, to be contributing to diligence discussions, and to be frank, we are focusing more and more on, can we be creating a network of hospitals who want to be part of clinical trials? Mm-hmm. There are so many animal health companies that their friction point is they can either not get a clinical trial because CROs aren't doing what they're in, right, or it's going to cost ridiculous amounts of money. And all they're looking for are clinicians who are forward thinking and open and willing to be part of a clinical trial. So that's another area. If you're listening, you're like, I don't have time for any of the other stuff, but wow, yeah, I'd love to be part of clinical trials. So there's so many ways that veterinarians can get involved in supporting startups and innovation. And if I think about my portfolio right now through VANE, meaning our collective company portfolio, There are a lot of companies out there like Voice that you might have heard of, including Gallant, which has FDA conditional approval, very close, right? So stem cell therapies. And Covet, if you're using a scribe, I'm sure you've heard of Covet, if not, are using it. And Dallin Animal Health, which has the first honeybee vaccine, which is super cool. Inventory Ally, if you're doing inventory management. There's a lot of companies out there that if you might recognize that started very early on with VANE, and many of the VANE advisors and members have helped shape those companies along the way through direction, connection, and or funding. So lots of ways to get involved. And again, for those of us, we know that veterinarians, for the most part, are introverted perfectionists that are typically quite sensitive and skeptical humans. And we respect that. And I want to really stress in the best way that the reason that we exist, again, besides what I've mentioned, is because this is a wonderful group of optimistic, kind humans that want to see the industry better. So if you are in that group and you're like, wow, everything seems negative right now. Everything seems hard. I'm burnt out. The clients' visits are down and I don't do a lot of cat. So I don't know how to get into cat. And there's so much to think about. And I don't know about payment plans and wellness plans, right? Your mind can go crazy thinking about
it's kind of mind blowing right now.
It is how to manage your practice. We are the group we're solution seekers. So that is another way that we found a lot of hospital owners and a lot of hospital leaders find innovation, inspiration, or we just say, hey, I've got this issue. What are you guys doing for this? So it's a really collaborative group, again, that just wants to see things better, right? We all have said in one way or another, we want to leave the industry better than we found it, right? In whatever way that can be. So if that's you, if that's ringing a bell, we would love to meet you.
That's amazing. For the veterinarians listening right now, or the veterinary team members that are listening right now that want to start thinking about their career beyond an exam room, whether it's investing, advising, founding a company, what their exit strategy may look like, what the future holds after you sell your practice, similar to what you were mentioning before. What's the very first move you would tell them to make?
The very first move that I would suggest is to research and or connect with people in the areas you're interested in. When I sold my practice, I was also at a crossroads and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I realized how much I loved teaching, but I didn't know how to do it, where to do it, who to do it with, what I needed for that. And so it's really critical wherever you are in your career. I think the beauty is that while I said all those other things about veterinarians, the one thing that I think we all are, right, are empathetic helpers, right? Well, most of us, if not all of us, are caregivers of some way. That also doesn't just translate into healthcare. That means to one another. So we're all willing. If somebody listening is like, I really would love to be an angel investor, reach out to me. I'm so busy on LinkedIn all the time from people reaching out from founders or advisors or future members. And I answer everyone. And I had wonderful mentors and colleagues ahead of me that I'm standing on their shoulders because they wrote back to me when I reached out to them. So I'm paying it forward. And I want people to realize that if you are at a point where you're exiting your current practice or you're thinking, gosh, is this it? I don't want to be doing this the rest of my life. Or, you know what? I really love to write and I don't know where to do it. Or I really want to be in industry, or I'm sick of these hours. I think I want to create my own company so I can create my own hours, whatever it looks like. If I don't know how to get you there, I probably can find somebody who does know how to get you there. So I want to say, and Sahil Bloom challenges, if you follow him, he challenges you to do this all the time, is that to do one outreach a day. And doesn't matter who it is. In fact, it could be just a cold call on LinkedIn, but to reach out to somebody that you feel can help you, whether it's an email or a LinkedIn or whatever that looks like, reach out because odds are they're going to write back. And if they don't, reach out to somebody else. But it's really important to figure out and understand where you're heading, and not to just say, I need to do something and just jump right in. And it doesn't mean you need to do just one thing. You can definitely create your own path. And there's no one telling you that you can't except yourself usually. So yeah, I'd say reach out and dig in and learn about what else is out there, especially in the areas you're passionate about.
It's so interesting that you mentioned that, because if there's one thing veterinarians are universally good at, it's learning. We are trained to educate ourselves. We are trained that things will change. So read a new book or engage in a new way of learning things, or however that may be. I think it's really great that you're sort of reinforcing that. Really do what you're already good at. Do your diligence, learn more about what you're thinking about, and not letting where you are right now limit you from where you want to be or where you could be.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a firm believer that sometimes it's good you don't know where you're going yet, right? Take the bias out. And again, I wrote an article about this for today's Veterinary Business, and it was probably my favorite one to write, because the most common question, or I guess statement, that I receive from colleagues is, I don't know what else I can do. I'm just a vet. Yeah. And my heart breaks when I hear that, because I had that exact same feeling of, if I don't practice, what am I going to do? I don't know anything else. I don't know how to do anything. You don't know what your
personality is without practice.
Yes. Right. I mean, we identify. That's when most people get introduced. Most veterinarians lead with, I'm a veterinarian, not a mom or a sister or a spouse or whatever it is. They lead with, I'm a veterinarian, because it's so core to who we are. Mm-hmm. So I want to stress that you are still a veterinarian, even if clinical practice, I did for 24 years, even if that's not where you end up the last day of your life as a veterinarian, you're still a veterinarian. We have such a unique degree in that we've been trained to look for patterns, like you started with, to look across species, to translate, to integrate, to really do critical thinking. There's so many skills that we take for granted every day that apply to so many other things in life. And so we're all entrepreneurs in our own right. And if you're a hospital owner, yes, you are an entrepreneur. We say hospital owner, we don't say entrepreneur much. You are an entrepreneur. You are a founder. You are part of this ecosystem, and we are supporting you. So yes, please don't lock yourself into this little box that I am only a veterinarian if I practice. Put in your species of interest. So much more out there to do, and so much more is needed. So I hope for others that are interested that you maybe this gives you a little bit of an inkling to explore a little bit more.
That's amazing. This has been such an inspiring conversation for me personally. I am both on the startup side as well as on the investing side. And I love being able to bring this kind of thoughtfulness to our listeners. It's a new opportunity for investment that veterinarians may not have considered. So if you've ever felt like maybe your career path has kind of deviated, or if you feel like your career path is to stay in the exam room, either way, I hope this conversation gave you a bigger framework for what your expertise can actually become. Dr. Marks, as you shared, veterinarians bring something incredibly valuable to the future of animal health, that real world clinical judgment, that pattern recognition, and an understanding of what actually works for pets and clients and veterinary care teams. And whether that means investing in a startup, becoming an advising founder, building your own company, doing a startup like me, or simply becoming more intentional about the future of your practice, the message is clear. Veterinarians deserve a seat at the table. Mastering this kind of thinking isn't just about financial opportunity. it's about influence and ownership and entrepreneurship and helping shape the next chapter of veterinary medicine. And Dr. Marks, I so appreciate your time, your approach to veterinary investing. For our listeners, if Dr. Marks's approach to veterinary investing has resonated, I highly recommend connecting with her via LinkedIn, as she mentioned, or exploring the website at VANE, where veterinarians are learning how to evaluate opportunities, collaborate as investors, and contribute to innovation in animal health. Dr. Marks, what is the VANE website for people that want to learn more?
Yeah, so it's www.vane.vet. And it's up now. We have a new website coming that will be launching right around the time of the Kansas City Animal Health Corridor. Still functional now, but version 2.0 is coming soon. So please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Whatever question that you have, we can answer. And if we can't, we will find the answer for you.
That's amazing. Dr. Marks, thank you again so much for your time. I'm sure that our listeners have had an opportunity to have their eyes opened. And I'm sure quite a few will be reaching out to you via LinkedIn. For all of our listeners, thank you for listening. We could not do this without you. And we'll see you all next time.